Hi everyone, this is Norman Koshnek here. I'm still based in London at the Danubius Hotel here, very close to Lord's, of course, and on St John's Wood Road, a great location. And look who I just happened to bump into, a lovely young gentleman here, resplendent, and he's, what would you call that, like a Movie type red?
Yeah.
A Movie type red top. Monty Panesar, former England spinner, and in fact, I believe one of the best spinners that the country's produced. A lot of people would agree with me. Mo and Ali certainly is a person we'll talk about, but I'm going to talk about the overall country. First of all, how nice to see you again, Monty.
Yeah, good to see you, mate.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We've physically seen each other.
Yeah.
We've done plenty of broadcasts together, but not physically, and I really love that fact.
Yeah.
So, first and foremost, how's your life going?
Really good, very busy. Obviously, English cricket is always busy, and just keep developing our media career.
And I mean, your media career goes without saying. You've done a great job both in England. You're well liked in Australia. I believe you're well liked by most cricketing, if not all cricketing nations. And it's a rare spot that you've got because you're somebody who, that ethnicity side of you has allowed you to be yourself, but also be respected by all because you've conquered all sorts of hurdles, as the likes of the Usman Khawaja has for Australia. And I'm really impressed with you. You're a lovely bloke to start with anyway. But let's get a bit serious now. And when I say serious, I'm talking about what's been transpiring of late. We've obviously had the 2 test matches on Edgbaston and our Lords. We've got 3 to go. First of all, the schedule of these matches. Do you think it's plausible to play so many test matches in such a short time?
Well, the thing is one good factor is that, you get the traction of marketing and I think from the sponsorship deals, you get much higher sponsorship when you have a packed schedule. So for commercially, it really fits well. When you have, these kind of matches, 5 test matches in a space of 6 weeks, all people are doing at the moment talking about cricket, and it's the front pages, the back pages. They're talking about obviously so many different aspects that are happening throughout the Ashes, as we know. You will go through all of that, and that's what a dream is, a marketing dream for a corporate company that is sponsoring right now. So from a sponsorship commercial point of view for ECB and the Australian Cricket Board, commercially it is unbelievable.
That's a very good point. I hadn't actually thought of it from that perspective. I was perhaps a bit more negative than what you are, and I'm appreciative of what you're saying. The fact that the 100ers came in and squashed the timeframes, and not just the IPL, but the overall cricketing calendar is so heavy, it's congested a test series like this, but it may actually work in its favour, as you're saying. Very good point, Monty. Monty Panesar, trust me, is more than just a pretty face. I'll tell you that right now. He's someone who is, I think, one of the most well-versed on cricket and the overall aspects of cricket. All right, back to the series. 5 tests, Australia already 2-0 up. Is that curtains for England, or have they got a realistic hope of it?
No, they will continue to, I think, for Australia to win the next test match, it'll make them work hard. It won't be an easy win. So again, it will be very difficult for them to win, the 3rd test match, to win the Ashes, but they will have to work extremely hard for that. But England, they may have to back down a little bit with their basketball tactics. Like we saw in the first test match, where they were, I think, they were 390 for 7 or something, and Joe Root was 180 not out. Australia were in a similar position with Steve Smith at 120. I don't think they would have. They would have gone on to 450, 500. But with they are playing more entertaining style of cricket, and they've got to just work out and manage that, when to entertain and when to maybe be quite dominant and not let Australia back in, because Australia, I think, they've been very smart. They've put their self-pride, self-ego aside, and they've actually reacted to England's maybe throwing the punches first, and then they reacted after that. And they've been very good. I think Australia have been very smart. I think their coach, Anthony McDonald's been, I think he's an astute coach. He sort of sits back, and I think he's kind of said to the Australian boys that, guys, let's just sit back. Let's wait for England to be aggressive, work out how they play the game, and then we react to that. And I think it's worked in Australia's favour.
That's well said. And I'm supportive of the way Australia's played. But elements of what they've done, I'd have to say honestly about the unsportsmanlike nature of having been at Lord's. The crowd reacted pretty poorly as well, which didn't help, especially the Lord's members. But I know the conversation is held around, well, Bairstow also attempted to stump Australian batters like Travis Head. Why can't they do that in reciprocation? But in the true essence of it, would you like to be given out in that manner when you're playing cricket? Be honest.
Honest, not really. I'll be really disappointed, And what it does to you, it's a nasty way of getting out. You don't feel like you got me out in a legitimate way. And such a big, tournament like the Ashes and at Lord's, which is the home of cricket. Jodie Bairstow must be absolutely fuming, completely, infuriated with this decision from, Pat Cummins. But I guess it shows the attitude of the Australians. They will do anything to win the Ashes. And I think it's a big wake-up call for the England team. They've got to think twice now. I think, right, will they, do the same thing now? Will they do man-cad, or will they, try and get these run-outs? I think they should. I think England needs to get much more nastier as a side and be absolutely, ruthless and be a bit more bullish. Don't be so friendly during intervals. Have a chit-chat. How's it going and whatever. I never got that when I played in the 3 Ashes series. From the Australian players. Nothing like that. In fact, if I got them out during the lunch interval, they'll give me like real dirty looks. How dare you got me out like that? So it was very intimidating. It's a very intense environment playing the Ashes. You need to feel exhausted mentally and physically after 6 weeks. Feel like, this was, unbelievable cricket that we played. So I really want England to get much more nasty against the Australians, because this was, out of order what the Australians did. They should not. Pat Cummins had an option to think, I'll bring Johnny Bairstow back in and I will get him out the right way. I'll do it the right way. They would have won the game anyway. They would have won it anyway.
Exactly.
But I think they're just showing that edge that, there's no gamesmanship here. We'll do anything to win the Ashes. And I think it's just taken the heat up a notch when the third Test match starts.
No, it's a great set of points. If you were Usman Khawaja and you were walking through the Lord's main hall as they walk off the field, and a person had a go at you, how would you have reacted? What would you have done?
Yeah, look, I would have tried to ignore it. As a cricketer, as a head coach, you don't want to put your captain in a position where you're talking about, the members saying this or that. I know, look, the members, it felt like it was a football match.
Oh, yeah.
It felt like we were like Arsenal versus Tottenham in the stands, and they're sort of charging against each other, like massive shouts of cheat, cheat, cheat in the long room with the MCC tie on. That's not the behaviour, That's not the behaviour like the Queen is my hero. It's one of my heroes. I want to look at her etiquette behaviour, the British sort of manners that we call it, the British etiquette. That's what an MCC member holds their value on. And that didn't show that. That wasn't reflected at all.
Well, I like the fact that there was swift action taken. Pat Cummins made it clear, having spoken to the MCC, about the very fact that these players should be ousted and should be referred through a suspension process and probably lose their membership. That makes sense, because I, for one, would love to be a Lord's member, and I would do anything to keep it, and I would want it desperately. I would not jeopardise it based on something so simple. If you have your thoughts, keep them to yourself or deal with others, but not straight to the player within proximity like that. That's such a privilege to be amongst a player in that height of moment. Imagine if Bradman or even Tendulkar or anyone of that nature, the disgust that would come across as all had it been them, let alone, of course, Australians deserve the same respect. Okay, Pat Cummins as a captain, honestly, do you think he's done a good job? He's been winning quite handsomely, but do you think he's a good captain?
I think he is. Yeah. I think he's a very good captain.
Right.
As a fast bowler, he gets the decision right. He works out, the mood of each session, and then he knows when to go aggressive, when to hold back. And I think he's captained the team really well. He's done very, very well.
It's interesting, and I'm not anti-Pat Cummins at all, but I'm always a belief that a bowler, especially a fast bowler, should not captain the side. Not because of his inability to do so. The priority to him is his bowling, and to actually manage field placements is quite difficult. You will notice, though, that Steve Smith is doing a lot of the field placements, especially towards the end of that fifth day, in that presence, which is obviously an addition that Pat Cummins can actually delegate or give that authority to someone in the team who has experience to do this. So I think you're right. I think he's working well. He's warming to it. He's gotten better. And I mean, to win a World Test Championship is a big deal, yes. And to win, we'll be leading soon on the Ashes series is a big deal as well. All right. We talk about the English spinners for a moment. Now, Monty, yourself, full well about bowling spin. Moeen Ali and the likes of Rehan. What's your thoughts on that, Alex? Because Rehan, of course, is not in the squad going forward.
Yeah, look, I think he's a very aggressive spinner. He's very confident. And I've regularly talked about in my column in the Daily Telegraph that we should, whenever there's an opportunity, bring him, fast track him into the England side, and they did that against Pakistan, where we saw, he is a match winner. Maybe at Old Trafford, try and maybe bring him into the squad because it does turn there, and the Oval. Headingley, you can understand, it's going to be, I think, Australian fast bowler versus England bowlers there. The pitch generally sort of, does a bit on the first day, gets flatter later on. So, yeah, look, I think he's a brilliant talent, and I'd love to see more of him. And there's an opportunity to play him, definitely get him in the team.
Well, the fact that he was brought into the squad for this test, wasn't used, and then without given the opportunity to play, is now out of the squad for the next test. To me, it sends the wrong signal. They should have given him the opportunity to be in the squad longer, and perhaps had the opportunity to come, he would be there ready to go. Moeen Ali is in the squad now. His finger, you would hope, is better. But take a step back for that. Is Moeen Ali the answer for the spin bowling position?
Well, I think for short term, they need that. He's been with Ben Stokes during the IPL. They've won the IPL there with Chennai Super Kings. So there is that sort of winning culture that, these two kind of players have experienced. So they may just think that would rub off, England. Obviously it hasn't at the moment, but I think Moeen Ali, good of him, to come out and help the England side. They needed a spinner. They haven't got anyone there. And, he's trying his best. And I think it is slightly unfair to him to bowl 30 overs in a day where he only bowled, 26 overs in the 6 weeks. He's not ready.
No.
Everyone knows that. But he's doing the best he can. But, he's got a few magic balls in him. If you can get a few wickets, do well, that's great. But, I think we're asking a lot from him. But he is, in a way, helping out England.
And it's the quality of the character of the spin bowlers we had. Jack Leach has come through brilliant in his turn. Obviously, Ali comes out of the wilderness again, back to play. Great stuff. Rehan at such a young age, which of course Shane Warne thought very highly of, as well as yourself. I'm very spirited. I'm very much sort of buoyant by the way England spinners are. We in Australia have Nathan Lyon, which is great. I hope the legacy is there for spinners in the future. And as you would agree, spinners are a vital part of every side. And I found it lacking in this test match. I found that this barrage of short deliveries and the general standard of bowling was rather lacking. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, look. I think we've got to be also adapting with times as well. We've seen with T20 cricket coming into and generally going around the world that there'll be elements of players playing part, some element of T20 during their innings, during the bowling, and also entertaining as well. England are in that mood of hitting the ball, going aggressive. And Australia, obviously, responding to that. But England, 98% of short deliveries, when they were bowling, is that was that really necessary, against the Australian lineup? Did they overdo that? I kind of did that. I felt like they did, and sometimes that's the area where I think they just constantly let Australia back into the game, because the simple fact is that when there's a moment of, playing more traditional style cricket, England take more of the entertaining Bazball option, when they go aggressive with the batting, like they overdo with the short pitch bowling. So then you have very creative different fields, which is great for viewing figures. If you ask Sky Sports, I've been speaking to some of the guys at Sky Sports, they are loving it because the viewing figures have gone through the roof for them. So as a broadcaster, this is just a dream. But for English cricket, I just don't think, I think they can be smarter. And I think they're going to, if they lose the next test match, and I hope they don't, then I think that it's going to start where, they're going to run out of patience at English fans. They're going to think, we don't want this style of cricket. We want you to go back playing normal cricket. Because in the end, you want England to win. English fans want England to win. And winning's the main thing.
Absolutely. It could put off some very interesting points. We go back to, especially a man like Ben Stokes. Now, I'm sure you hold him as high regard as I do. His innings at 155 was absolutely magnificent. Against the wall, when he lost Bairstow and the like, he was down to his last batters, so to speak. The way he manufactured the strike, and on top of that was able to handle some, I think at times rather ordinary Australian bowling, was stupendous. And more of it. I mean, do you see Stokes in the same breath, or have Stokes in the same breath as both of them?
Well, they often talk about, during the Ashes is the greatest rivalry between two countries. And also, it's the moment where we've seen players from Australia and England, when when the everything's against you, and then suddenly you produce the best innings in terms of batting or bowling. Both of them did an 81 at Headingley. The whole nation thought, well, England are not going to win this, but one man stood up, and that was Ian Botham, and he completely changed the mindset of people's thinking when it comes to sport and it comes to winning culture. And Ben Stokes did the same as well. Andrew Flintoff did it in 05. So we constantly see that the rivalry is absolutely great with England and Australia on the field, but the good mates off the field, I'm not sure they'll be good mates at the moment. I think they're hating each other, but you often see these and it lifts the nation. It lifts the whole nation when you see one England player just completely dominate the Australian team and win a game single-handedly. And I think Ben Stokes, for him to be in that category, I think he will have to win the Ashes in Australia, because Ian Botham's got an unbelievable record. I think he's taken 148 wickets in Australia.
Wow.
Against Australia, that is, combined. But he's got a fantastic record in Australia as well. So I think Ben Stokes, to be on the same level as Sir Ian Botham, the next Ashes, hopefully Ben Stokes is still there, I think he will have to perform really well there to be on the same level as Ian Botham.
Well, the door's open there for him to actually go and do that, so let's hope he does, because it's great theatre. He's great theatre. Pope's injured, long-term, I'd say relative injury now. Who will go in the first rock?
Yeah, that's a good, it may allow Ian Monty to come in. He may come in the top 6 as a batter now.
Yes.
And actually he plays as a spinner, but as a batting role, they may look that as an option, which I think they should go that route, and then that allows still play to play 4 bowlers. So I think Monty will come in instead of Pope, and they'll probably still go with the same team with 4 quicks.
That's an excellent decision, because we all know Monty can bat, and he's a good upper order batsman as well, and can handle the difficult bowling conditions at that stage. Fantastic. I really hope that is the case. I'd like to see more from Harry Brook. I know he's done really well in his career, but so far he's played some rather unfortunate shots, and he, to me, needs to step up now. He's done a great job. This is his real moment of reckoning. Let's hope he gets some runs as well.
Yeah, it's his home test match, at Headingley, so what a better place to actually play and try and get back into form, get that rhythm going like we've seen him do. He's a really, really aggressive, good cricketer, similar mold to KP, and you can see the shots that he plays. So yeah, he would want to get some form back going. He want to play some good cricket, but I think the Australians have worked him out. The Australians have kind of worked him out a little bit. And there was one moment that happened in the IPL where when he scored, I think 100. Early on in the IPL, he I think over 60%, 70% of his runs were between cover point and behind. When he backs away and he cuts the ball really well, and he plays over extra cover, and his strike rate was over 265. They suddenly realised, wow, this is the area that they've cut him off there. He's not getting any runs through there. Get him to play a bit more straighter, similar to Gilchrist. Gilchrist likes to play square of the wicket. Not to play, he doesn't like playing straight as much, and they've got him play straighter, and he wants room, and they're not giving him any room. So I think they've worked Harry Brooks out, and that's Test cricket for you as well. You got to, while you're playing a series, you got to adapt your game and work out ways of scoring runs.
And having spoken to David Gravity, who we both know, he believes his adaptability is there, and he will learn from the errors of his ways and come out on top. He's got that class about him, which is great to see. Not unlike what Steve Smith has done in his batting performances. Of course, starting off as a spinner, as you know. Isn't it still to you? It's remarkable to me how a guy like Steve Smith got into the Australian side as a spinner and then has batted the way he has.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, just to see him do that. But also his appetite to keep training and hit the ball. There's times where if he's training and he hasn't really batted well, he'll keep batting for 2.5 hours, and then there'll be a moment for 5 to 10 minutes at the back end where he's batted really well, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm back in form." So this is how hard he works. We often say do smart training. For him, it's like he needs to feel that he's in form, mentally, physically, emotionally, everything's clicking for him. It could be the first half an hour training. It could take him 2.5 hours to get there, but he will work that hard to get into that space that he wants to get into, that he feels, I'm satisfied, I'm in form now, and that that's unbelievable dedication. He has love for batting, and good on him to keep pushing him. Keep so hungry, so hungry to score runs. He's doing really well for Australia.
So and some of the people, like a lot of the people commenting as much as my heart is talking about my predictions, because I was predicting England would win this series. I thought the 1-4 has been tremendous. I thought they were going to roll though. It hasn't turned out that way so far. What is your prediction? What do you think will happen in the next three tests?
It's the decision making on Ben Stokes. Like that first day when they were 390 for 7, like we said, and we do go back to that. Everyone was horrified. I thought they would have got to 450, 500, and then really got Australia out of the game. If they did that, I reckon England probably would have been maybe 1-1 or maybe 2-0 up right now.
Yeah.
I think that decision has gone really against England. And they say that, if I were in a similar situation, I'll keep doing it. But I really hope they don't do that. If it's on the first day at Headingley and they're like 350 for 5 and they declare, I don't want them to do that. I want them to really be ruthless and get to maybe 450, 500, get Australia bat them out of the game. But I just don't think that their team values and their makeup is like that. I think they get a buzz out of entertaining the fans and playing this new style of cricket because it gets the media talking about it. Like everyone is just talking about Ben Stokes' captaincy. They don't look at like the Nathan Lyon heroics or some of the great innings that Pat Cummins played up on the 5th day, or some of the great sort of bowling that Nathan Lyon did. There's some of the other talking points no one is focusing on. Everyone's just talking about Ben Stokes and his captaincy, and I think he really enjoys people talking about his captaincy, his leadership. He's loving it. I think he's just slightly overdoing it, where it lets Australia back in the game, and then Australia, they're waiting for that, aren't they? They're waiting for that moment of when Ben Stokes starts becoming this sort of entertaining captain, and I think that plays into the hands of the Australians, and they know how to respond to that now.
It's interesting because before this Test series, I think most people expect England to do well. Definitely win it. Home territory, home soil, just the way basketball's been going, the whole effort's been really positive. But ironically, that's nil down. You look back to previous series where Australia was expected to win and it didn't happen. The Shane Warne era. I don't think Australia was expected to lose that, but they did. And that's the mental approach to the game, which I think is a little bit off with England. They need to get away from that thought that they're unbeatable the way they and have to adapt. You're right. But Ben Stokes, I mean, he's 155. Who scores 155 in the 4th innings of a match like that? That was just beyond belief.
Yeah, I think Ben Stokes is built for big occasions. I think for him, he needs the scenario set up, the whole theatre to it. Then you see the best of Ben Stokes. And we often, we saw it at Lords, we saw it heading in 2019. So, he is a man for the big moment. But I just feel that Ben Stokes needs to be a little bit more smarter now.
Yeah.
He needs to be a bit more ruthless. He may need to just think, right, actually, let's not be so entertaining. Let's get ourselves into a dominant position against Australia, and try and either bat all the ball. And it may mean you have to play more traditional style cricket. We saw like the Nasser Hussain documentary on sporting leadership, and one of the best leaders in this country is Nasser Hussain. When it comes to how he developed under his captaincy, the players he had, and he's an unbelievable leader. But the great thing about that documentary on Sky is that all the other people that Nasser Hussain interviewed, they won a major trophy. Ben Stokes hasn't done that. So he may want to revisit that. You're just watching something and you think, well, an inspiration of how they did it, how they captured a certain moment during their time. It could just help him. Could help him to think, right, you know what? I need to just rein it in a little bit, and try and be a bit more domineering against Australia, rather than thinking, guys, here's a chance to be a bit more entertaining. Let's do a bit of baseball cricket style, and I just think it goes against England. You're playing the World Test Championships there. You're not playing a team that isn't as strong as they think it is. This is the strongest team they're playing against, and I think Australia have found an answer towards basketball.
Now, in terms of one of the questions there, they're talking about has England picked the right bowlers, more so about pace. Now, Ollie Robinson, albeit he's got great stats, is not of the pace of the Australians. James Anderson probably has passed his best in terms of speed. Didn't have a great first two matches. Despite that, he's still a brilliant bowler. Broad is certainly there or thereabouts. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I think Stuart Broad uses a crowd energy. He knows he's not as the same bowler as he used to be. And, you know, even James Anderson, last two test matches haven't done so well. Like, look, if I was right now, you know, Rob Key, I'll be saying, look, guys, at the Oval, both of you guys, I reckon this is your both last test match. Because the next series coming up is India, then they've got West Indies, they've got Sri Lanka. I think this is the right time to move. England need to move on now after the Ashes. And it'll take a brave man like Rob to do it, because I'm not in that position to do it. It's easy for me to say that, you know, because that's a massive call if you look at it. You know, you're telling two of the biggest, you know, sporting icons in our country, let's say Stuart Broad, James Anderson, to retire at the same time. I just think it's the perfect time, because India, we know when they go to India, India will win that series. You know, we don't produce enough spinning wickets, you know, to adapt ourselves. India is far too good in India, but it'll be more of a developmental tour for England. There'll be fast bowlers coming through, and you know, we learn a bit more about. Then we've got slightly easier tours coming up. You know, West Indies and obviously Sri Lanka
and Pakistan.
Yeah, Pakistan as well. So, you know, this is a great opportunity for all of the other bowlers to come through and do that. And I think it would be a brave call to do it, but I think it's the right call. But I don't think James Anderson would agree. So neither would Stuart Broad. I think they want to play as long as they can.
So James Anderson now is 49, is he?
Yeah.
Like that. No, the fact is, look, third highest wicket taker, fifth highest wicket taker. Still playing. Some 1,200, close to 1,300 wickets between them. Phenomenal. In fact, their record now is better than McGrath and Warne as a team.
Yeah.
They've actually outdone them wickets-wise. That's a huge call. That's a huge accolade for them to have. Now, Broad still bowled well against Ireland, did pretty well against here. You would argue Anderson was a bit off, but look, there's still 3 tests for them to resurrect that. But who would you select as your bowlers? If you had...
I will go with James Anderson, Stuart Broad. You need to play your best bowlers in the next 3 test matches. Josh Tongue has been really good. I think he needs to be in the team. Ollie Robinson. The thing is, we don't have any pace bowlers. This is the one thing the Australians know, that England don't have the pace. They don't have the pace in their attack apart from Josh Tongue. So, you know, you as mentally, you know that you will be a bit more confident within yourself. You know, if someone express pace who can hurt you, I'm not sure Mark Wood is 100% fit either. So I think it relies a lot on these two. So, you know, you never know. I've seen often a lot of my teammates in the England team, they said, look, Monty, this is my last test match and I'm going to go gun blazing. They played their best innings. Andrew Strauss did it in New Zealand, at Napier. He scored 150 and he ended up playing another 50 test matches. Paul Collingwood did, I think, South Africa, Edgbaston, got 70 or something, and he ended up playing a few more test matches. I think that's what James Anderson and Stuart Broad needs to do, especially James. You know, I'm sure what I'm saying, he is not. If he does listen to us, he would not agree with us at all.
Well, you don't advise very well.
Yeah. Neither would Stuart Broad. I don't think they agree. I think they think we've got a lot of cricket left. And I think it would be sad to see both of them go at the Oval, because I know him obviously quite well for so many, played a lot with them. So it is a brave call, but if James Anderson doesn't bowl at his best in the next 3 test matches, he may make that call. Do you know what I mean? He may just think, you know what, guys, I'm past at my best. And Stuart Broad, you know, he may just think, I want Oval to be my last test match. You know why? Because I think he'll go straight into commentary and he's a good broadcaster or whatever, but he'll just think, what am I playing for now? I've achieved everything. This is the moment now to give a youngsters a go. You know, why do I want to keep playing? And I think Stuart Broad he sort of thinks a little bit that way, where he thinks, what's good for English cricket right now?
That's excellent.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. And
he may do it for England. He may just think, you know what, I'm going to call it a day, because I think we need to see youngsters coming through. You know, why do I want to keep sort of bustling in India or whatever, you know?
Is it like a marriage, though, between Broad and Anderson? when one goes, the other will lose their momentum as well. Not just physically, but mentally, because they've been a great team.
Yeah, they have. And look, I think they have been a good team. I just think that the tour to India, James Anderson has a better tour. He can reverse the ball well. He does a bit more with the ball than maybe Stuart Broad. And Stuart Broad may just think, I can see him just going to Sky Sports as a commentator straight away, and he may just slot in and he may just think, you know what, he likes the crowd. If he does go, it will be probably in England with the whole Barmy Army, the English fans, the support of it.
It's appropriate. It's appropriate.
Yeah, it seems like a right fit for him.
I hope he does do that. I mean, not for obviously more than both, but you need to be on top of your game to leave the game, and that's my opinion. I mean, you wouldn't agree with that?
I agree with that. Alistair Cook did it. He got 100. I think Stuart Broad is bowling really well. I think it'll be a good time for him now to, after the 5th Test match, to think, I've achieved everything in the game. I'm one of the greatest bowlers ever, and he can do whatever he wants now.
Yeah. The only thing is, I think something burning in Anderson is to beat Warren's record. I don't know why. There's something about being ahead of all the Australian bowlers, literally, would be a nice way to finish. He may not get there. Look, I look at a person like Greg Chappell, scored a century in his first Test match, a century in his last. It's apt for someone like an Anderson and a Broad combined to get 5+ wickets and perhaps win the last match, regardless of the overall result. That would be a fitting ending. I totally agree. And I think that's a wonderful way. Now, you know them both. I'm expecting you to be there for that match if that is the case. It'd be nice to be there. I mean, Monty, you're blessed. There's several eras that you've touched, haven't you, really? Anderson and Broad was a part of your time. Some of the younger blokes, you've dealt with a lot of different eras. You have a real appreciation through the eras, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Look, I played a lot with them. I played under 19s, with Jimmy. We went to academy, under Rod Marsh there.
Right.
And he was brilliant for all of us. So there's a lot of connection with Australia, a lot of connection, a lot of cricket through all the generations. And it's just, the history between, I remember when I played 05-06, like Matthew Hayden and Mike Hussey wouldn't even say a word to me. While at Northlands, we'll be like sitting together, having a laugh. I'll be bowling to them all the time. But they were like completely different people. They were like, no, you're not our mate. You are our enemy. And they really... they really showed that, and when you go on the field, it's very intimidating. It was very, it was a hostile environment. But you gotta stand up to it. Whatever the bowling is thrown at you, you gotta at least show some bit of fight. And I can see being my number 11. Whenever I was out there and I got a barrage of short deliveries, I just thought I'm going to stand tall here because every delivery I'm out here is going to give momentum to my teammates in the England team. And they often say that is that 9, 10, 11, if they stay out there, they fight hard, it is actually a reflection of the team spirit that there is. So I tried to do as best as I could, and I could see when I got back, the team were really buoyant. They go, come on guys, let's get three wickets with a new ball, and that's the sort of Ashes cricket. That's what it's about, isn't it? It's a tough, intense environment, and you're doing it for your teammates.
You grow another leg, don't you, effectively? You become another person. You become better than you ever imagined yourself to be.
Yeah.
And Monty, I'm not trying to say this because we've got you live. You are a great ambassador, not just to cricket, certainly to England, but to the subcontinent, to all people, because you're well liked everywhere. I don't think I'll come across anyone that doesn't like you. And that's because you're genuine. You are who you are, and I really appreciate your time. But before you go, I wanted to finish on a few points. We're getting a lot of questions about aggression. We're not going to lose that for the Australian tests, are we? But they need to be smart about their aggression. Would you agree?
Yeah, look, they've got to be smart. They can't overdo it because I think it will play into the Australian hands. And Australia love that ultra-aggressive side. I think it gets the best out of Australian cricketers, don't they? They get more into the zone. They get focused. They love the competitiveness. So I think they've got to be a bit more smart. If I was them, I would not speak to them. With what's happened with Johnny Bairstow during the intervals, when they have their little chit chat, none of that. Ignore them during lunch. Don't even speak to them on the field. If the ball, if they're uncomfortable, they're not feeling great, whatever, just nothing. Just really go aggressive and be ruthless, and show a real kind of like a determined side. I think this England need to be much more. How do you call it? Tougher. They've got to show a bit more of a fighting spirit rather than sort of being a bit matey with the Australian guys, because I just think it takes the intensity out of the game situation, and I think it helps Australia, because I think when England are really intense and on top of the game, I think Australia, you can see they're very vulnerable, but you've got to get them into that place. And every time they get them into that place, they're like, oh, guys, let's play a bit of entertaining cricket now. Let's set different fields. Let's declare. Let's do this. Let's do that. And then Australia, like, guys, they had their foot on our throat and they just let it go.
Yeah.
And then I just think it hasn't worked for England, the tactics.
Yeah, it's well put. Okay. Even if England don't win this series and it's 2-all or a fighting 3-1, let's say, and there's a draw, whatever it might be, I think that's important now. England can't let go of the thought that there's a lot at stake here. It's not over. 2-0 down should only roll them even more to get into it. I'm looking forward to it so much. The closer the test will make it a very strong ongoing interest, and the Oval will be a great test, being the last, and that would be superb. So, Monty, last words. Who do you think will stand out in the next 3 tests? Who do you think will be the person that will show their wares? Who will come to the fore?
I think Pat Cummins is he's just growing as a leader, and I think he's going to continue to grow, and he's going to just get stronger as well, because I don't think he's affected by any of this. And neither, I think for the Australian media, they're not. I think according to an Australian fan, they think that Stuart Broad is a cheat. He should have walked when he edged it. So for them, it's no. That they think this is the right thing to do. And when the Prime Minister comes out and supports that, then he's already saying, oh, Australia, here they go again, winning the test match for the women's cricket, winning against the men's. That's what we do. I can't wait to welcome the women's and the men Australian team back to Australia when they are victorious. So, you're getting huge support, from the own government as well. So I just think Pat Cummins is going to continue to grow. I hope that Ben Stokes doesn't go the other way.
Right.
That's the fear factor for me as a captain. I hope he then just doesn't go too aggressive with entertaining, too baseball-y and all of that. I hope he holds it together. And I think he can. I think he's got enough support from Joe Root. There's Stuart Broad as well there to support him, Jimmy Anderson. They'll say to him, guys, come on, mate. That's enough of this baseball stuff. Let's get back to a bit more traditional Test cricket. Let's not lose the momentum here. Let's stay on top. And so it'll be interesting to see the battle against 2 captains. But one guy who's really surprised me is Usman Khawaja. I didn't think he would do so well here, but he's really stayed in his bubble. And, often a lot of batsmen trying to go into that zone and stay there for a long time. He's actually brilliant. Let's be honest. He's done really well.
Sensational guy, too.
Yeah.
A great family. There's a couple of young kids now. He's stabilised. Not that he needed to be stabilised. He's just got his... the disappointment for me was that he got involved with that main room of Lords, that whole activity. Wish he wasn't there for that, because that's something I don't... It wasn't his fault, but I wish he would have walked away, and he normally would. So whatever was said must have been pretty damn bad. Let's be honest.
Yeah, whatever it said was pretty damn bad. But then, we see other cricketers in the past, the way they behave, on the field. Like we talked about, like Sachin Tendulkar. His greatness is his demeanour.
He walks away from that.
He walks away. He doesn't get walked into that, and that's why he is one of the greatest sportsmen ever. It's not you're not great because of your performances. You're great on and off the field.
Absolutely.
He's a great human being, and he is one of the greatest human beings.
Well, I must finish with Monty. You're one of the greatest human beings. I know Monty pretty well. He's always been a man of great stature, well liked, says what he thinks, but keeps it at the right level. Doesn't necessarily push too much, but still gets your point across. And I'm very impressed with what I've seen you do. Thank you very much for your time, Monty.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everyone joining in, and thank you for Norman inviting me. I hope at the Oval it's 2-all. Then we've got something to talk about. But Australia have been brilliant. I think they've reacted really well against baseball, and Australian fans, and English fans, all they do is talk about the aftermath of every test match. We don't see another sort of tournament like this as the Ashes. People talk about it so much.
Oh, it's great. And again, Monty will be on again. I'll make sure I'll get him back if you're willing and you've got time. Monty's so popular, I have to wait in line to get a hold of him. But we'll get him back hopefully well before the Oval finished. And I think the Oval game finishes. I think Monty has a great perspective. And stay tuned to Eyes on Cricket with Dominic Hodgson, because the likes of Monty will be here. Monty has always wanted. Tell me what you want from Monty. Ask me questions. We'll set up questions for him that are specific from the audience. He's more than welcome to join us again. He's been with me for a number of years. I can't think of a better man to have on my show. Thanks again. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
All right, guys, stay tuned. Eyes on Cricket will be here for the longevity. Don't miss anything on Eyes on Cricket with Norman Codsley. See you later.